Welcome. Today we're sitting down with Frank Nolan, a distinguished real estate professional and president of Vanguard Properties. With over $2.5 billion in sales and a career spanning 25 years, Frank is one of San Francisco's top-ranked agents, consistently placing in the top 10 citywide and top 100 nationwide. Frank's journey to success is unique. Originally from Chicago, he studied East Asian languages and civilizations, spending time in Japan before moving to San Francisco with just $1,200 in his pocket and a drive to succeed. His path led him through various experiences, modeling, working in Paris, and waiting tables before finding his true passion in real estate. As a rainmaker, closer, and mentor, Frank leads the Nolan Group, a dedicated team ensuring exceptional service for clients. He strives on problem solving, thinking outside the box, and uncovering opportunities others might miss. His reputation for discretion, grace under pressure, and strategic thinking has earned him the trust of high-profile clients, from CEOs to celebrities. Frank's success stems from his disciplined, detail-oriented, and highly competitive nature. He operates with humility, respect, and a deep commitment to his team and clients. Whether it's assisting international buyers, navigating high-stakes negotiations, or mentoring the next generation of real estate professionals, Frank is always, my favorite, calm, cool, and collected, a true leader in the industry. So let's dive into this conversation with Frank Nolan and gain insight from one of the best in the business.
Wow. That was very kind of you.
Oh my goodness, it's all
Thanks
true.
for the reminder.
Well, I will say, in full disclosure, I want to start with, I've known Frank for 15 years, and we've worked together all those years, and I'm really grateful to consider you my friend.
Right,
so we'll start there.
Right back.
And one of the best in our business, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for being here. And I really want to start with, I always like to start with the first question, which is the secret to your success. How did you get started? With $1,200 in your pocket. I love that story.
It's true.
Yeah, that's wonderful that you've become an enormous success. So tell us how you did that.
I actually stayed in one of those hotels near Union Square.
Oh.
There was a shared bathroom, and I had my own room and all that before I found housing, which, because that's all I could afford. But I think there was a lot of motivation coming from that. But I've always been pretty motivated in life. Even when I was in kindergarten, I hung out with the 8th graders.
Wow. So you were way up there already, overachieving.
Yep. So I wanted to learn from them. But I think when I arrived in San Francisco, I was stimulated by the city. And I wanted to, there's so many great things happening in the Bay Area, and there always have been. So that motivated me to want to go from nothing to something. So before I started working at Vanguard Properties 25 years ago, I had 3 jobs.
Wow.
3. Yeah. And I worked 7 days a week, and I worked every single day, and I had a social life, but it wasn't amazing in my 20s. And so I wanted to be able to go out to eat when I wanted to. I always enjoyed dining, and I wanted to pick a path, and whatever path I picked, I just wanted to be good at it.
So what year did you come to San Francisco?
February 2nd, 1998.
Oh, you know the day even. 1998. Yes. Very nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so, you landed in Union Square. You got yourself at a place, and you found 3 jobs immediately, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then real estate. How did you fall into real estate?
Well, while I was interviewing for big jobs, big person jobs, corporate jobs. One of them was a publishing company in Shanghai, and the other one was Arthur Andersen, working in Asia. Huh? I was a little bit hesitant to move to Asia or work on 2 continents, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. But I was starting to love San Francisco. So while I was doing these interviews, I was waiting tables because that's what I did during college. It was a great way to earn a decent income.
I understand.
evenings and weekends. I had a regular customer who I just received an email from his estate today. It's funny that you should talk about this.
Full circle.
He passed away a while ago from dementia. But so he was one of my regulars, and I was in Jackson Square, right where Quinn's is. I was at a restaurant there that Adi Dassler owned, and he was one of my regulars. And randomly, I read some article in the Chronicle that day about San Francisco real estate, and I was talking to Byron, and I just said to him, I said, "Gosh, real estate here in San Francisco is fascinating." I had no idea what the guy did. He owned like half of that block on like Jackson and Battery, and he owned all those beautiful cobblestone buildings, a lot in that whole area. And I started the next day or the next week working for him, running his huge commercial business. It was him and an accountant and his assistant, and that day his assistant had quit. So he hired me for $22,000 a year.
Wow. Right out the gate.
And I knew it was a low salary.
Jumped in the deep water.
So I needed 2 more jobs to maintain
Even
my life.
1998, that is a low salary.
It was pretty low.
Yeah.
But, and he taught me a lot about life and what it means to work hard and reading documents and understanding that and applying what I learned in college. And that led me to meeting James.
Yeah, James Nunemacher, who is also the co-owner of Vanguard Properties that you
Correct.
work with. And how did you meet James?
So one of my other jobs that I was doing, I was running a leasing organization, Tech Rental Solutions. I was a listing manager. And what I did, this is pre-internet, pre-software for what we do, and we would actually fill out all the forms of the agents, the leasing agents did, of the listings, and we did have a very basic database. Well, it crashed, and I was the manager who managed all of it. Was data entry. It was very boring, but I enjoyed the agent vibe, and so there was probably 60 agents, and I didn't have a license, and there was 2 owners of the company, and there was this manager, and the database crashed, and the manager said, "Everybody cancel your plans. We're all coming in to re-input the data into the software." And this was in the late 90s, and a bag of marijuana came out, and I was still fresh off the boat from Chicago, and I was like, and we're in San Francisco at school, but I'm like, I'm at work. I'm like, and I don't really partake in that anyway, but so a lot of people did, and I thought it was a little bit bizarre. But we all did our work. We went home. We had some pizza, and the next day, the owners called me and said, "Did this really happen?" I said, "It did." And they said, "Did you participate?" I said, "No." And they said, "Great. Would you be willing to step in as the VP?" And I said, "Okay, sure." I'm like, "Here it is." So I stepped in. I implemented a dress code. I painted the office. I brought in my own furnishings. I made the lobby better. I changed the meetings. I got my real estate license, and I started running the show. And I was 25, I think, 26. And then I met James Nunemacher as one of the my business partner at Vanguard. Through a high-end leasing opportunity.
He came in to lease a property, and
and Rick Hills I met Rick Hills, and Rick Hills told him he needed to meet me. So I had no idea who he was. And at the time, I was interviewing the San Giacomo family to oversee their whole portfolio.
Huge.
Yep. So anyway, I met James, but James is so dynamic. So I was about ready to leave my 3 jobs and go into one with San Giacomo's, but I met James, and I'm like, what do I do? I was conflicted. I went with James, and it was the best decision I ever made 25 years ago.
And you had a real estate license, and James, you went to work with him or for him? I'm not sure.
I was on his team for 5 years. Sales support.
Nice.
And granted, I was in my 20s, and all my friends were going out all the time, and weekends were big events every weekend. And I worked.
You worked, because I know James. James will work 24/7.
All the time.
And in those days, we all did. We worked 24/7.
There was a lot of sacrifice.
Right.
For,
to learn the business.
For several decades.
Yes.
Yes. But I love it. So, a lot of the time it didn't feel like work.
Right. Well, that's great. Tell me how, the change going into real estate full time then, what did what did you have to learn? What did you do? Because leasing is completely different than sales and listings.
Well, there's a whole language, you know, it's a whole
Starting
language.
there, exactly.
We're kind of like attorneys in a way, you know, in confidentiality, understanding the legal. We do perform like attorneys do in other states. So that component took a while to fully understand and learn. But navigating relationships, understanding the players and all the agents and the community and all the buildings, that took a long time.
It's good to hear because a lot of new agents are hard on themselves because it does take several years just to get all the vernacular, to learn the contracts, to learn, you know, the mortgage side, the financing. There's so many pieces of the puzzle, the title and the escrow. So to build the confidence, it takes a long time. So it's nice to hear that you walk the path of the ring of fire, I'd say. Yeah.
When
it's
I
not
always
easy.
tell new agents when they come to me, what should I do? I say yes to everything. Just don't compromise your integrity.
Good answer. I
Just
like
say
that.
yes. I said, do it. Just say, sure, I'll do it. So, and don't think about money. Think about experience.
Right, because you're learning as you're earning money. You may not be earning a lot, but it over time it compounds. Just like you now the co-owner of this company, and you're one of the biggest producers that I know of in not only in San Francisco because you're nationwide. I remember about. I don't know, a month ago, pulling your name off the list of the top 100 nationwide and texting it to you. Look here, congratulations.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. So you worked with James for 5 years on his team.
And then I actually almost quit real estate. I'm not sure you this. So I
didn't know this.
I was spinning my wheels, working all the time. And I remember I almost quit for a couple of reasons. One is I felt like I didn't have a life, which happens. But I loved what I did. And then two, and granted, this was like 2004. There was all this chatter about technology taking over our industry 20-something years ago. And think about where we are now. It
true.
hasn't. It hasn't. It's changed our industry. It's changed the way we work, largely beneficially.
Helped us, correct.
Yeah. But it hadn't. I'm glad I stuck with it. But I went to see a therapist, and this guy was about ready to retire. And I was telling him my struggles, and he was great. I really liked this guy. I only went for a couple sessions, and after like the second or third session, he goes, "You should really go to Thailand." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You should go to Thailand." I'm like, "Huh." So I went home that night, and I researched Thailand, and I was dating somebody special, new, and I said, "Let's go. We're going to Thailand." And I went to Thailand for 2 weeks. I came back. I really embraced Thailand and, you know, the Buddhism, the spiritual component of it. And I came back, I had a clear head, and I politely stepped off the team. And I formed my own team within 2 weeks. And I stayed very close to James. And then the rest is kind of history.
Wow. Oh,
But
that's
I
amazing.
learned that you have to take a break. If you're going to work at like such a high speed, and it's good. I mean, I thrive off of being busy all the time. But I know my mental capacity has limits, and you just have to like pause.
Rest and restoration.
Yep.
Very important. Yeah. So you do manage to take some time off in your weekly activities, I hope?
I have, yes, most days I have an hour and a half early in the morning dedicated to my health in different ways. And then the evening, most nights I sit down with my partner.
For dinner.
Yeah, we have dinner.
Nice.
And we talk like this.
Yeah.
And those are two great, important things for mental health. Yeah. And Saturdays, I work every day, but, you know, I try to go lighter on a Saturday.
Well, you're quite busy. There's no doubt. So tell me, if you can think back to those early days, what do you think was the biggest challenge getting started? Because so many people want to know that what creates success. Saying yes to everything is good, but what challenges did you find in the beginning?
The thing that there's a couple challenges. One, just getting business, and getting most people want to give business to those who already have it. And how do you get business if you don't have it?
That's a good point.
So, and I'll come back to that, but I've always had a pretty gentle, kind of a nice. I'm not a mean person. When I get mean and angry, upset people get really cry or just. I don't never yell. I don't know if you've ever seen me yell at you.
No, I've not 15 years. I've never seen you. That's why I like that cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah. So I remember, and I think the industry softened a little bit, but I remember being quite cutthroat, and in the early 2000s, and I was always referred. Oh, you're so nice. You're so nice, and you know, I remember thinking to myself, gosh, is this a bad thing? Am I too nice?
Interesting.
To be able to negotiate
Right.
and to be able to do this job. But I quickly realized, no, it's okay to continue to be nice. You just have to be assertive and know when to be aggressive while all the same time maintaining composure and being cool and nice.
It's amazing. I've always said there's so many ways to have a career in real estate. And people do think they have perceptions. But the truth is there are people that love your type of demeanor, and there are people that like the difficult, the very aggressive type of personality. I've watched, I see that over and over.
Yeah.
Did you used to read books about sales, or did you just intuitively know how to... It's interesting because there's commercials that I hear on TV, on the radio. One on the way over here today, it says most salespeople have never read a book about how to sell. So I wonder, is it just something that came natural to you?
Waiting tables taught me so much.
Waiting
about sales.
tables, interesting.
So much. Because the interaction with human being, being able to tell them, when you can sit down, when you can stand up in front of somebody you've never met and say, let me tell you what's going to be good for you. And they like it.
Yeah, they sure do.
They win, you win. It feels so good.
That's right.
They
want your
with
recommendations.
wines or interpreting somebody's thought process. And I waited tables for a good 10 years. I fine dining and at the end. And so that really taught me a lot. And I have two sisters, siblings, and they're very different. They're both amazing, both very different personalities. And I was the middle child, and on
the other side.
I moderated them for many, many years. Every time that they would often get in fights, and I would.
You were the
They
mediator.
helped teach me how to become a good negotiator.
So cute.
So I attest those two things to.
You learned your negotiation
Contributing
skills growing up between two women.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And then how did you end up finding your way to get clients? How do you, in the early days? I know now you probably work by referral.
Largely, but early on, so I remember thinking, like, people, you have to have a hook. Like, you can't just say, I have a lot of time. Or you can't say you have a lot of time, you can help people out, but you need a hook. I remember hosting open houses on some that weren't my listings, and I would get keys for other listings that weren't on, and I would meet people out at the place I was representing. If they let me know it wasn't right for them, I'd be like, I've got these keys to this other place.
Very
Do you want to see it?
Right.
And so what I would do is I would try to get like 2, 3, or 4 people to join at 4:15 or whatever.
Excellent.
When it was over, and a lot of times I would just start doing that.
Being very creative.
And I was like, and then it started rolling, and then, the word kind of got out that I was a hustler, and then developers just started reaching out to me to sell 2, 3, 4, 10, 12 unit buildings.
Wow.
So that all starts rolling.
I noticed that you work with a lot of developers, and you've said it's difficult. They're a different breed. Do you recommend that people stick with residential, or should they be varied?
You can do both. You just have to understand it. You really have to understand. It's another language that it's learning.
How is it different?
Well, the documentation's different. You have to understand construction type, architecture, really understanding floor plans. If you're curious about it, like genuinely curious about new construction, it's pretty amazing. It's interesting. I enjoy looking at floor plans and say, no, this won't be the best for the consumer. Why is this closet here? Or maybe take a little space away from here and do this. That's exciting. Or I enjoy looking at budgets because it sounds boring for most people.
Right.
but budgets were not interesting to me in the beginning of my career in new development, but they are now because I understand how they relate to the health of a building and the health of HOA. And, you know, looking at a budget and saying, does this make sense? Or do you need this much of this? Or should you do more of this? Or do you need breed restrictions? Or should, you know, all these, you know.
So the developer
for
relies on you
Yeah.
for really your expertise in assisting them to get the maximum dollar.
Or just understanding how to sell a project and how
Excuse me.
you don't release all the units all at once. Like how, and I think you just need an opportunity, if you're a new agent, to assist on a project to get into that world. And again, that's going back to saying yes to everything.
Say yes to everything, try everything.
Be smart about it.
And so back to your balancing and your demeanor. I think that one of the things that I do respect about you is your demeanor. It's always very calm. And I wonder how you are able to maintain that in a crisis or with huge high negotiations, multi-million-dollar properties. Does it come natural to you, or do you work at it?
I've always, I mean, there's a storm behind here.
Yeah, because we never see that.
I've always been a pretty level person. Like, you know.
Even cute. Not
yeah.
like me.
Even my mom and dad, when I was a kid, when I was like 5, my nickname was Mr. In Control.
Oh, the secrets.
So I've always kind of, I think a part of it's my temperament and kind of who I am. But that's self-imposed too, you know, you tell yourself who you want to be too. So I think staying in and out of work, staying cool in any given situation just pays off. It does. Easier because I've learned when other people get excited, people get so excitable in real estate. The buyers do, the sellers do, the other agents.
Stressed, right?
It's intense energy. And I just learned, let it go. Let it be, right?
Nice. Yeah.
And you watch, and you just kind of watch it, it usually settles down. So it's just, I just find it easier to work in this job by being cool, calm.
And when that's a great answer. I appreciate it. It's just, it is true because they're looking, I think our clients look to us or as the professional to keep them calm because it is very nerve-wracking selling or buying a property, multi-million dollars, no matter who you are. Everyone has that little storm going on inside. So I want to talk a little bit about teams. So you started a team. And you like working on a team, and a lot of people ask me as a managing broker for years, should I start a team? Should I not? What's the benefits? I mean, which way do you, obviously you prefer being on a team. You were on James's team, and you worked alone for a while, and then you started your team.
I worked alone for like 2 weeks, maybe.
Oh, that's it?
Like my
Very
trip
short.
to Thailand, and then like a week or 2.
Oh, wow.
And I
Formed your own team.
right away,
And tell me the benefits for you on that.
Well, 2 can get a lot more done than 1 for sure. But if you're not, and I was busy. I don't think anybody should form a team unless they're so busy where they feel like they don't have enough time. A lot of agents want to form a team just to form a team. Be your own brand. You know, I think it's better to be your own brand. Or if you're not busy enough, join somebody else's team in some capacity. There's so many different permutations and combinations of teams. But I enjoy being on teams because I feel like there's a compound effect to being on a team, and everybody has different strengths. And you know, early on, I there's the hunters and the gatherers. You know, there's people that are more detailed, people that are there's a lot of facets to it. But I think teams are great.
Right. And so one of the things I read in your bio is that you're a rainmaker. What does that mean to you?
Who said that?
I don't know. It was in your bio. I loved it. Because I've always... Anyway, tell me what it means to you. A rainmaker.
I hadn't really thought about that. But I think the way I interpret that is you just make things happen, right?
Correct.
And it goes back to saying, yes, I'm going to fix this. I just figure out a path. Don't let we are our own worst obstacle. So if something's in front of me, it's problem solving and figuring out how to get to the finish. And yeah, I think if you focus on the process of whatever that problem is or what you're supposed to do, rather than the end, you're going to get there.
Just stay in the moment and be present for it.
Not the outcome.
Nice.
Focus on the process. Yeah.
And so back to the teams, I want to know a little bit more about how you organize your teams. Do you meet weekly? Do you meet monthly? Do you talk every day? And it's interesting to me because I've never worked on a team, and I know a lot of people haven't. I've always
amazing.
been,
I can't
I mean,
believe
I'm team manager.
You want to be on my team?
We'll talk offline.
My team's kind of like my family. You know, we don't have set team meetings. We communicate a lot. I mean, I start sending emails to my team at 6 in the morning today.
What time do you stop?
Depends on the night. Usually, you mean communicating with them,
Yeah.
or just with my team? I try to leave them be after 6ish
Oh, that's good.
or 7.
That's early.
Unless it's unless there's an offer or we're in a
Right.
negotiation, then it goes to like 9 or 10. But then if there's a certain point, you just say stop.
Right.
But the way, gosh, my team, we have spreadsheets of all of our clients. The way I work my team is like this. I found early on in a different version of my team that you can't attach more than one teammate to a particular principal, because what happens is too much scapegoating. Well, I thought this one was doing it.
Right.
I've done too much and they haven't done enough. So
Yeah.
I introduce one teammate to each principal, and I explain to them the why about accountability and 24/7 and customer service. And I speak about high-end hotels and what luxury means. There's always a yes, you know, and that's whether it be to showing or if the seller needs you, or if they, you know, and that enables.
So it holds them accountable.
Yeah.
It's a great accountability tool.
Yep.
Who holds you accountable? How do you stay accountable to yourself and your career?
I do.
Just do it?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think some people just are self-starters in that
Yeah.
way, and others need more accountability, like a partner. And I think maybe that's what the team does, is it
Yeah.
does help to, because
Yeah.
you've always been on a team and you worked with James, and I'm sure, knowing James, that it was a busy team as well. And so that gives you accountability early on. There's so many new agents that come in the business that they have no structure, and they have,
Yeah.
you know, they
That,
have
I
nobody
think
to
teaming up
hold.
with somebody, accountability is so important.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And if you need somebody else to hold you accountable,
Yeah.
find that partner. I've never had a problem with that though. Yeah.
How about technology? Are you a more techno person or are you a more personal person?
Personal. I don't have a CRM.
Oh, nice. Good to know.
I have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've never had a CRM either. It's,
I have good systems though,
yeah.
and more trending is less phone. You know.
Oh,
Which
really?
I love the phone. I love the phone.
I know. I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I love the phone.
Yeah.
And people don't leave voicemails anymore. That's trending down too.
Uh-huh.
Did you know that?
No, I know that texting, I mean, I'm kind of an old dog, so, you know, I'm
Yeah.
from the old school, but I like the phone too. And I
Yeah.
find calling people is like an intrusion these
Yeah.
days. Is still.
I always every time I
So what do you do? Text?
I ask the principal. And I've learned
Very good.
over the last like 10 years to ask when I first meet somebody how they like to communicate.
Very important.
And it's a big bold note that I put in the contact,
Nice.
because about 10 years ago I was working with this young tech woman, and she texted me to say, hey, I like this property, will you go look at it? And I did, and I called her. I did right away. I called her the next day. I said, there's an offer date in a few days, let me know if you want disclosures. Left her a long detailed message, hung up. She never called me back. So a week later, she texts me and says, hey, what happened with that property? I said, I left you a long message. She goes, I don't listen to voicemails. So that was it.
Big bold.
One, and we stuck together, but I remember thinking, okay, this is a turning point.
Right.
So
Yeah. So it's true. Asking the client how they want to be communicated to is very important. I like that. That's a good one. And then what about the new technology? Are you using AI? Are you using? Yeah.
I am.
Say more.
Yeah, I'm just signed up for Sidekick,
Uh huh.
which is
They don't even know what it does, so tell me.
Sidekick is a technology that it works directly with our MLS. And you can be driving and you can say, hey, I'm going to such and such address. Please run the comps over the last 6 months and remove any outliers. Da-da-da-da, and it sends it to you.
Wow.
You know, hey.
This is nice.
Yeah, you can say, hey, I'm working with so-and-so. You know, can you send them a weekly report based on their criteria? Boom. With your prospects, it's pretty, I just signed up for it. And then I work with, what's the other big one? Not OpenAI, ChatGPT. Which is great.
GPT.
I work with that. I'm working with that, but I proof everything. And I generally, I don't think I've ever not edited something, but it's pretty spectacular what it can do.
And it saves so much time.
Yeah.
I think that's the key that I've seen with that kind of a product.
There's a new video component that's part of it. Where
Are you using video?
Not yet, but I want to. You can upload or show it a picture of something and say, you know, create a video where there's, you know, a couple cooking dinner in this kitchen. Da-da-da-da-da, and then there is.
Wow.
Make the couple look older. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's all AI generated.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It
I've seen
really
some
is.
pretty bad ones, you know, on social media where they fake things, but I can appreciate that this is the way we're going. And
I think we need to embrace that.
of
But there's
course.
so much garbage.
I mean, listen, when you started, you said you were writing contracts by hand, and you probably had carbon copies in
Yeah,
those days.
faxing
So
everything.
faxing things. I mean, the world changes, and if we don't move with it, what's going to happen is we just get left behind.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I wonder, it's still a personal business. That's what you said. You're more in tune with that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many tech components and tech things available to us in the real estate industry. You just pick and choose what works for you. You don't have to use
And why
any
do
of
you
it.
still think it's personal?
It has to be. I mean, people are relying on our guidance for what we know because they're afraid that they're going to make a huge financial mistake.
Right.
You know,
Would you buy this house?
yeah, would you buy this house from an AI generated comparable? No way.
Right.
No. They need somebody who has seen every single one of these and the light, the block, the lot, who understands what's happening with the schools and permanent history. There's so much. I don't see us going.
I'm afraid
away
to
for a
ask
while.
you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm
No.
afraid to ask you what your typical day looks like for you. But I think I will because I know you do so much in a day, and I'm curious.
So from the time I wake up, 5:15, snooze to 5:30. Dogs,
Nice.
husband, a
Nice.
little light breakfast, and then I go to the MLS right away after I have my coffee, and I scan everything and look at all and send it either to my team, like, hey, look at this and how it relates to what upcoming or what we have, or I email clients. I clean out my inbox, adios, and I train. I have a fitness trainer 3 days a week, and the other days I train myself. You know, either weight training or cardio, and then I'm usually the first in the office. I like being. My mind is so good in the morning. I love my mindset in the morning. It's so good. I've always been a morning person. I get a lot done in the morning. It's
great.
easier to. I like to set up calls in the morning because there's more clarity and organize myself. And then every day, beyond that, every day is a little bit different depending on what's happening in the real estate. But I'm usually pretty tired by around 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I like to get home. I continue working. I like to cook. Then sit down and have a meal. And whether or not I can be finished after that is left to the universe.
Whatever was happening that day.
In bed before 10.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And you're showing property and taking
Showing
listing
property,
appointments.
yeah.
And all of that is what goes
And I
on
work
during the day.
I work pretty much every Sunday too. I don't
Open
I don't
houses.
have open house. I feel like you have to stay relevant and just to really understand the market. Every week it's different.
I'd like to jump into that a little bit, the market, and not because every market's a little different, but mostly with the new buyer broker agreement that came out nationwide this year. So many new changes. How are you seeing that is a positive, a negative? How is that affecting not just you personally, but also the brokerage? Because you own a brokerage with 14 offices. So co-own.
Well, I think a year ago, right now, if you would ask me that question, there was a lot of confusion and fear and worry around that. But now, having been 6 months into it, six about, it's made my buyer relationships better.
How good.
I don't feel like I'm wasting any time. I'm not worried about my clients maybe meeting somebody else and going off. I feel like I've sharpened my pencil a little bit with, how I work with buyers, but getting that signed is not challenging.
And the buyers feeling confident and
Yep.
working with someone and knowing that they have some representation.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's
So
a big
far, so good.
change, in our industry, but I think it's overall being received very well.
I agree. Yeah.
So let's wrap up with a balance question.
Okay.
I'm always, everyone always wants to know, obviously, how do you balance it all? I mean, I just mentioned 14 offices. You do, I don't know, anywhere from 100 to 200 million a year in sales with you and your team, or is that just you? I'm not.
That's everything I do is
Team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big number. It's a lot of transactions. And then you have a home life and you have dogs, I heard, and you like to cook. How do you balance it all?
I surround myself with great people.
Wow. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, great people like you and the leadership team and my team.
Yeah.
And there's so much effort. There's so many people. You have to have good structure, good teams, good systems, and you can do a lot.
Yeah. Good structure, good teams, good systems. I love that. It's always a key to a top producer is having good systems in place.
Definitely.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with
Happy to
me
do
today.
this. It was
I know
great.
many will love hearing it. Thank you so
All right.
much, Frank.
Thank you,
I
Paula.
love you, and I really
all the best to
appreciate
you on this. Yeah.
it. Thanks so much.
Yeah.